The Federal Reserve has officially mandated that all major banks must now hold physical metal to meet their capital requirements. This law is not a suggestion. It is a regulatory mandate with immediate implications. Banks can no longer rely on unallocated paper holdings or derivatives to meet liquidity or capital ratios. Every ounce of gold or silver now matters, and the institutions are scrambling to secure physical assets. Statements that once showed balances as sufficient are misleading. Depositors who assume their claims are safe may be at risk. Banks are converting unallocated assets into physical metal or cash, and this is happening quietly behind closed doors. The Fed has created a scenario where physical possession equals security. Paper promises are no longer enough. Compliance with this law is mandatory, and banks that fail to adhere face penalties, increased capital costs, and potential insolvency. Market participants are already noticing the ripple effect. Prices for gold and silver are rising as banks compete for limited supplies. Industrial buyers are reacting as well, but they are now secondary to the bank's regulatory priorities. Every day that passes without acquiring physical metal exposes banks to additional risk. The Federal Reserve has essentially rewritten the rules of the financial system. The era of infinite leverage and fractional ownership of metals is over. Banks must adjust their holdings immediately or face consequences. Depositors who hold unallocated accounts are particularly vulnerable. Banks will prioritize their compliance over client convenience. Withdrawal delays, conversions to cash, and forced liquidations are now likely. The market is forward-looking, and every movement in physical metals is driven by regulatory compliance rather than speculation. Depositors cannot rely on traditional statements or dashboards for security. The hierarchy is clear. Banks first, industrial users second, retail last. Timing is critical for those holding unallocated assets. Every transaction the banks make reduces available inventory for everyone else. Industrial users are trying to secure supplies, but are competing directly with institutions that have regulatory mandates. Prices surge as the competition for physical metals intensifies. The alert is active, and the law has taken effect. The Fed is enforcing compliance aggressively, and delays in acquiring physical assets could create significant financial strain. Banks are issuing internal memos and letters to clients, instructing them to convert paper holdings into cash or physical metal. Those who ignore these warnings risk being caught off guard as liquidity tightens. Every ounce of gold or silver that changes hands under these mandates reduces market availability and drives prices higher. Depositors must recognize that unallocated accounts are now a liability to banks, not an asset. Banks are acting in their own self-interest, first, to comply with Fed regulations. Physical possession is the only guaranteed form of security in this new environment. Industrial buyers and retail participants are observing rising prices, but the root cause is regulatory, not speculative. The Federal Reserve has fundamentally shifted the balance between paper assets and physical metals. Banks that fail to comply will face increased capital charges and may be forced to liquidate other assets to meet requirements. This creates a cascading effect across markets. The alert is clear. Unallocated accounts are vulnerable, and physical metals are essential. Timing defines advantage. Those who act early can secure their holdings. Those who wait may face delays, higher prices, or restricted access. Banks are hoarding metals to satisfy the law, leaving fewer resources for industrial users and retail investors. Price volatility will continue as physical inventory tightens and regulatory compliance drives market behavior. The Federal Reserve's mandate is effectively a reset of the financial system. Paper reliance is no longer sufficient, and unallocated accounts are exposed. Depositors and investors must recognize that physical possession is now paramount. Banks, industrial users, and sovereign funds are positioning aggressively to comply with the law and secure assets. Every day of delay increases risk for unallocated holders. The system is enforcing hierarchy. Banks first, industrials second, retail last. Awareness, timing, and possession define security. The Fed's law has set a new standard, and the market is reacting immediately. Depositors who understand this can act to protect their holdings. Those who ignore the mandate risk restricted access and increased costs. The hierarchy is enforced, and physical metals now dictate financial stability. The alert is live. Banks are moving, industrials are reacting, and retail is last. Statements mislead. Dashboards mislead. Only possession guarantees security. Timing and action define advantage. The law is active. Compliance drives behavior. Banks hoard, industrials scramble, retail must react. Every transaction reduces available supply, increases prices, and enforces the new reality. Awareness and preparation are essential. Physical metals are now the ultimate safe asset. Paper or unallocated holdings are exposed. The Federal Reserve has changed the rules. The alert is real. The law is in effect. Banks act first, industrials follow, retail last. Timing, possession, and awareness define security. Unallocated accounts are vulnerable. Physical metals are safe. The system is enforcing hierarchy. Compliance drives action. The alert is critical. Depositors and investors must act to secure physical holdings immediately.